Hello everybody, my name is Kat and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things horror. And today is exciting because we get to talk about a new Terrifier film, and not just any Terrifier film, but also a Christmas Terrifier film. Hence why I pulled out my Santa hat a few months early. It's looking a little wonky. That's okay. So for most of this video, I'm going to be getting into spoilers and talking about specific scenes. However, before we get there, I'll just give my general reaction. I saw this film last night. I was able to snag tickets to one of the only showings at a local theater. And I've said in past videos, I would consider myself a casual Terrifier fan. They're definitely a lot of fun to watch and just see how crazy the gore is going to get. So I enjoy them for what they are. There's definitely a lot of positives to them that I'll get into later. But overall, I'm not like the biggest gore person. I don't mind it, but I'm definitely more of a like story character type person, which, you know, there's like a loose story happening here. There is an interesting mythology that he's creating with these films. Overall, the focus is on the gore and the effects, and that's fine. These kinds of films definitely serve their purpose, but that's what prevents the Terrifier films from being movies that I go back to, right? They're not like comfort films for me in the way that a Halloween or a Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street film might be. Yes, there's like nostalgia that's playing into that, but also the gore in those films tends to be either subtle or just left up to the imagination. And that's the kind of gore that I prefer overall. So all that being said, I went into Terrifier 3. I was like, I'm just gonna go into this, grab my popcorn, have a good time, laugh. I was really excited because this is the first Terrifier film that I've seen in a theater, and the theater was packed. It was full of horror fans, and yeah, I was just ready to like sit down and have a good time with my fellow horror fans. And I do think that Terrifier 3 is definitely a good time. I would say if you are a fan of the first two movies, you're gonna enjoy this one. I know that this one has been getting some like criticism. Like I just went online briefly just to see kind of what the general reaction was from people. And I was reading some comments that some people were finding this one disappointing. And there was definitely criticism around the pacing of this film, which I do agree with, and I'll get into this more in the spoiler part. But yes, I feel like the pacing for this one, it's kind of weird because I feel like Terrifier 3 moves much quicker than Terrifier 2. One of the biggest critiques that I had of Terrifier 2 is that it felt like the film just really dragged on in some scenes. Some scenes were like 10-15 minutes longer than they needed to be. And you don't have that in Terrifier 3. Like I think this film is an improvement on that, but it kind of goes to the other end of the spectrum where some scenes almost go too fast or the pacing of it is almost a little bit too quick. Because yeah, it felt like the film, you know, it was doing its thing, it was going along. We have these various like set pieces and scenes where Art the Clown is showing up and doing his whole bit. Then he kills someone and it's gory and it's fun, and then he just kind of goes on to the next location and does the same thing. You get little like character interactions with like Sienna and her family intermixed. So it was going along like as you would expect it, and then it kind of just felt like at the end, it was like, okay, bam, we're here at the climax and at the big final battle. And it was a bit like, oh, okay, wait, we're here already? We're doing this now? Oh, the film's over? Oh, okay. So there's definitely still some weird pacing stuff in this one. I do agree with the criticism on that. Overall, it didn't quite bother me as a whole, like while I was watching it. And as far as the kill and the gore goes, because let's be honest, that's the main reason why a lot of us are going to see these movies. Yes, there is plenty of gore. There is plenty of body parts being cut off. There is plenty of skulls being ripped in half. So there's a lot there to enjoy. I did feel like, and I don't know if other people feel this way, it felt like this one was slightly tamer than the second movie or even the first movie. And again, I feel like that kind of goes back to the pacing thing. I felt like the kills in this one, they felt quicker in terms of like the shots, whereas I feel like in the first film and the second film, when you're having the gore scenes, I feel like the camera, it kind of like lingers on the shots. They'll have just kind of like a medium shot that's showing you someone and their skull's ripped open and their arms are cut off and everything's like flapping everywhere and there's blood spraying all over the place. And I feel like the first and second film like stays on those shots a bit longer than what we get in the third one. In the third one, it felt like there was a lot of quick cutting where you would see, you know, a body part being cut off and then it would immediately cut to something else. Again, the pacing just felt much quicker in this film. It didn't feel like we lingered with the gore as we do in the first and second film, with the exception of like one scene that takes place in a shower. That's definitely like the big set piece kill, I would say, of this movie. And maybe that's just because, you know, the Terrifier films, or any kind of film that tries to do this extreme like gore stuff, there is kind of like this point that you reach where it's like, okay, well, how much more like extreme can you go? You know, there's scenes in here where it feels very similar to the second film, and there are times where it feels like it's doing definite callbacks to the second movie in terms of like, you know, you'll have kills that are very similar to that bedroom scene in Terrifier 2, where you have someone that's getting scalped, they're getting their arm like cut off, and it's like, okay, yeah, cool, that's what we expect of these movies. But again, because it was so like jarring and in your face in the second film, when they're doing it here and they're doing it to, I don't want to say a lesser extent, but again, it's just like much faster than what we get in the second film. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, someone's getting scalped and getting their arm cut off again. Cool. What else have you got for me? But overall, there's still plenty of gore here. And like I said, the big set piece film that happens in a shower, like that alone is worth the price of admission, I would say, especially if you're someone that goes to these movies just to see the special effects. And I feel like this is kind of one of those films where you know already whether or not you're gonna go see it. So I'm just gonna get into my spoiler talk. Again, very much similar to the other two films, I went and watched this and I had a good time with it. And I do think one of the reasons why these films work as well as they do is because of the performances from David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown, and Lauren Rivera, who plays Sienna. They're both just so good and have such a great screen presence, and they work well with each other. I feel like David Howard Thornton is at the top of his game in this film, playing Art the Clown. Like, I just love all of his little like facial expressions that he does, the very like exaggerated mime kind of acting. He communicates so much with his face, and it's hilarious to watch. Like, he has such great screen presence. There are so many times in this film where he was just reminding me of some sort of like grotesque like Charlie Chaplin type character, right? In the sense of having that very over-the-top, exaggerated vaudeville like acting and facial expressions. And I really love the character of Sienna. I think she's a great modern day final girl. She just brings like, I don't know, I guess like a groundedness to the film, and she's everything that you want in a final girl, right? She is smart, she's resourceful, she's strong, she doesn't take shit from anyone, right? The bad guy comes and attacks her and she just immediately fights back. She's also caring and vulnerable, and she has amazing hair. This has nothing to do with the movie, but the entire time I was watching Terrifier 3, I was like, hair goals. She has great hair. I want to know what products that she uses. But I just have such a good time with her character. I love the whimsical fairy tale aspect that they give her, and especially with her like color palettes in the film. Like, anytime that we've seen her in either the second film or this film, and we're in her room, like, it's this very, you know, pastel colors, it's pink, it's again very feminine and fantasy-like and like full of glitter. And yeah, I love it. I love that she's an artist. I really like her relationships with her family, particularly in this film. I thought her relationship with her niece was really nice. And I know that like some people get annoyed with the more like character scenes or the more like talking scenes, and sure, I get it, the dialogue isn't always like the best, but I actually like the more quiet moments when we're just like hanging out with her, and yeah, she's like creating something in her bedroom, or we're having one of these like nice moments with her and a family member. Like, I actually do kind of prefer those scenes over the more gory, grotesque set pieces. And I know I'm probably in the minority of saying that, but I do feel like when I go back to the Terrifier films, if I do, it's mostly like her scenes that I'm watching and going back to and kind of like skipping over everything else. So I'm gonna be getting into spoilers now. Overall, I did enjoy this film. I don't know if I liked it more than 2, which is kind of weird because I felt like I did have a lot of issues with the second film in terms of just the pacing and how long it is. I think I just enjoyed the Halloween vibes of the second film, and while I do absolutely love Christmas horror and just the aesthetics of it, right? I've said it in videos before, there's nothing I love more than having very beautiful scenery, backgrounds, and then having something very like grotesque happening in these very beautiful scenes. It's a reason why I love like Italian giallo movies so much. And I feel like Christmas horror scratches that same itch, right? And just the fact that you have all these pretty lights everywhere and like tinsel and everything's like sparkling and glowy. So I really love like the Christmas horror aesthetic. But I don't know, I just felt like there was something about the Halloween vibes in the second film that I enjoyed a little bit more than this one. But okay, getting into spoilers right now. So talking about the positives, as I've already said, the visuals in this film. I've mentioned it before with the Terrifier movies, but I think one thing that Damien Leone does really well is crafting this aesthetic, and this is also like kudos to the cinematographer as well. I'm looking up who does the cinematography for the Terrifier films. So it's looking like George Stuber, I think is how you say his name, is a cinematographer for the Terrifier films, at least Terrifier 2 and 3. Him and Damien Leone do such a fantastic job of creating this aesthetic that feels, yes, very much like a throwback to the 70s and the 80s slasher films, but also like having its own distinct style to it. Like one thing that I really love about these movies is that it's using the aesthetic of the 70s and 80s that we all love, but it's set in modern times, it's set in modern day. It doesn't need to go back to the 1980s to tell its story. And I've said before, like, I know we love the 80s and the 70s, but I'm kind of burnt out on modern films and TV shows that just want to like take place during that time period. So I really love it when we get filmmakers that can recreate that aesthetic but set it in modern times. And again, I think the Terrifier films do have their own distinct style to them. And I do think a lot of this is a combination of, yes, the visuals, yes, the iconic look of Art the Clown, as well as the whole mythology that Damien Leone is bringing into this universe, right? With the whole good versus evil and demons versus angels. And we're getting even more of that in this film, at least a little bit. And so I think it's all of these things together that make these films stand out from a lot of other horror films that are trying to do a very similar thing. But overall, I just love the visuals. One of the reasons why I was so excited to see this film is because I was excited to see them bring this aesthetic into a Christmas horror film. And yeah, there were plenty of shots that just like looked beautiful. The two shots that stick out in my mind at the beginning of the film, when we're going back to the events at the end of Terrifier 2, after he's gotten Victoria out of the mental hospital or wherever she was, and they go to that old like decrepit house location and are just like chilling out there for like 5 years or something. But we just get these shots where you have Victoria in the bathtub, right? And it's all like dark and the walls are like full of crud and it's gross to look at. It feels like, I don't know, a bathroom you would see in like a Saw movie or something. And then you have Art the Clown who's hanging out in the attic, which I loved because it had like the Amityville horror windows. That was fun. That was a nice homage. And he's sitting in this rocking chair by the window and there's like this blue light coming in on him. Those two shots of him sitting in the chair in the attic and her in the bathtub, like I loved these shots so much. I thought they were so beautiful. And again, this very like horrific, kind of disgusting way. And just so like eerie, especially with him like just sitting in the chair. That might have also been a reference to Black Christmas with the guy that's hanging out in the attic in that movie as well. But visually, I just loved those two shots. I was like, ah, beautiful. I want to take it and put it on my wall. And yeah, Damien Leone just does such a great job of creating this universe that, again, it looks really nice, but it is very just grotesque and awful. And every time I watch a Terrifier film, I like look at this universe and I'm just like, thank God I am not living in this world with these people, because this is like nasty. And it feels very like, I don't know, just kind of claustrophobic in a way as well. So yeah, this film, as with the other films, like A+ as far as the visuals go. I already talked about the kills. Again, the special effects in this film, top notch. I would have to say probably my favorite kill is the shower scene. Again, that's kind of the big like set piece kill in this one. And the guy that just gets the chainsaw like up his ass and through his back. That kill was so much fun to watch in a full house of horror fans. Everyone was like screaming and cheering and cringing. Down in the very front, there was like this whole group of 16-year-olds that just like came in. I don't know how they got in because they were checking IDs. Like when I went to show the usher my ticket, they asked for my ID. So there must have been an adult present with them somewhere, or at least some 18-year-old. And I was a little bit nervous when they came in because I was like, oh God, are they gonna just be like annoying the whole time? But they actually weren't. I will say they were well behaved. I was very surprised. But yeah, but the loudest they were was during the shower scene and the kills, and they were just like losing their minds, and it was hilarious to watch. I will also say too, because I know this film, like many of the other films in the past, is getting a lot of, you know, buzz online about, oh my God, people like walking out and throwing up in the theaters. I can't speak for anyone else, but all I can say is that for my theater, with both the adults and the 16-year-olds, nobody was running out of the theater, nobody was vomiting, we were all laughing and having a good time. But yeah, the guy with the chainsaw through the ass, that was, ugh. And then his body is just like hanging in the living room of this other scene. And then he like takes poor Sienna and just like shoves her face right in his ass. It was like, ugh. It's so gross, but so awesome at the same time. Also, like, how great was it just to see that podcast girl get completely just like destroyed by Art the Clown? I did enjoy that in the film. I mean, I feel like we've been getting a lot of horror films lately that want to have these like true crime podcasters in there somewhere. And I get it, that's part of the trend. Obviously, true crime is a very lucrative genre. But I like that this film did call some of those people out and call out the fact that it is kind of seedy for these people that, you know, make money or get views off of other people's real life pain and suffering. I mean, it's kind of like ironic that we're getting that message in a Terrifier film. But yeah, it was just awesome to see her get her comeuppance. Especially after her whole like speech around like, I just want to know what it's like to look into the eyes of a killer. And then when he's like brutally like killing her in the shower and he's wearing those sunglasses and he just like takes off the glasses and just like looks at her in the eyes. Like, yeah, that was great. I love that. I will say, aside from the shower scene, like, you know, the other kills were definitely on par with what we expect from these movies. Again, I do feel like they were kind of fast, and I would say that felt true for a lot of scenes in the film. This again goes back to some of the pacing issues where, I don't know, it just kind of felt like there were like chunks taken out of the movie here and there. At times I felt like there should have been a scene that helped to bridge two scenes together, but we didn't get that. We kind of just like jumped from one to the other. The scene that I'm thinking of the most with this is like when Sienna realizes that Art the Clown is back. She says to her brother, like, I have to go back to the Terrifier, which, if I'm remembering correctly, she's referring to the, was it the amusement park or the ride at the location at the end of the second film where she gets the sword, the knife thing that has the magical powers that allowed her to defeat Art the Clown in the second film. And it felt like we should have had a scene where we're seeing her going back to that and getting that tool and have some sort of, I don't know, character moment, reaction to that. Again, I know it's a Terrifier film and we're not that focused on character and storytelling, but that's also the problem when you do want to add in a mythology to a film like this. And I'm only like saying this because it does feel like Damien Leone does have like a grander vision for this universe besides the extreme gore. So I would like to see that getting fleshed out a little bit more, and it seems like we might get that in the fourth film. And if you don't know, they've already said there's going to be a fourth film in this franchise. But anyway, going back to the scenes, I also had that with like Art the Clown and the fact that he is chilling out in this attic for 5 years, comes back alive at Christmas, and then is kind of going through this town. We have a lot of scenes of him, like he's at the mall and terrorizing children and families there. And then he's at the college where Jonathan is and is killing people at a frat party there. Well, really only like 2 people. And then he's at Sienna's house. I don't know, it just kind of felt a little bit weird because it's like, how is he knowing where to go? I mean, I guess again, you could just kind of chalk it up as like, oh, supernatural. He just knows where to go. But I know, it just feels like we were missing something like the kind of scenes of him like gathering information as to like where these people are. Moments that you do get in slasher films where it's like the killer is either stalking or getting information as to where their victims are or going to be. I don't know, again, I would have liked it if the scenes had felt a bit more seamless, a bit more like put together. I feel like we had that in the second film. Like, I feel like while the second film was long, the scenes flowed together a bit better. Here, it feels jarring in some cases, and again, it feels like there's something that might have been like taken out. I'll be very curious to see if they release a director's cut of this and what is in that cut. And again, the kind of pacing issues is why the climax feels a little bit clunky. I did enjoy the climax. I loved that whole like fight scene with Art and Sienna where it's like chainsaw versus sword. Loved that, thought that was great. The scene with the mom and the rats going in her throat, like hated it, but awesome at the same time. And yeah, I liked it. I did like Victoria. I thought she was interesting, very clearly her character being inspired by like the Deadites and the Evil Dead films. And then I was also kind of confused because I was like, is this demon, because they do set up in this film that Art the Clown is being possessed essentially, I think, if I got the lore right, by this demonic entity that has come on Earth. And in this world, the only way that demons can come on Earth is if they possess or assimilate with a human being. But it can't just be any human being. It has to be like a really horrible, terrible person. And so this demon has infiltrated the body of a serial killer, hence why we get Art the Clown. But it seemed like the demon was also possessing Victoria. And it was interesting that the demon is speaking through Victoria and not Art the Clown. And I was like, okay, are we gonna get like Art the Clown speaking at some point, maybe in the next film? Not that we necessarily really want that or need it. So she was okay, not my favorite. I did miss the little girl version of Art the Clown that we got in Terrifier 2. I liked her. I liked her vibe. I liked her look. She was cool. But yeah, the final battle and the whole climax felt a bit rushed. I think I would have liked it if we had what you usually get with like slasher films, in which we had maybe a little bit more interactions with Sienna and Art and her realizing that he's back. When Art first shows up at her house, I was thinking like, oh, okay, this is good, like the first of their battles, right? He's gonna be there. She's gonna realize that yes, he is back. She's gonna find some way to fight him off, and then, you know, they're gonna have to go back to either that like location from the second film or go somewhere that has like some sort of like significance to the lore of the movie. And then as it was playing out, I was like, oh no, this is actually the climax of the movie. Like we're here. But like I'm thinking about it because I'm like, well, what would I have cut to include maybe more of these like character scenes? I guess maybe stuff with like the podcasters and some of the college stuff. I mean, although again, you know, we can't sacrifice that great shower kill. That was amazing. Again, my biggest critique of Terrifier 2 was like, it's too long. And now I'm here at Terrifier 3 being like, I needed more scenes. So yeah, I think for me, the biggest critique here is just some of the weird pacing. I will say too, because I mentioned this in my review for the second film, and it still rings true here, I just don't like when Art uses guns to kill people. Sorry, I'm just like old school. I like my kills to be like intimate and close up. Although I will say the scene where he does use that, and you have Daniel Roebuck as this guy playing Santa Claus, that scene was hilarious. That was one of my favorite moments of this film. And you had like Clint Howard there as well. Like that was hilarious to me. There were some fun cameos in this movie. Although I do have to say, I was so disappointed in my audience that I saw this film with, because like the film opens up and we're in that mental hospital where Victoria is, and you have Chris Jericho playing one of the orderlies, and there were people like around me in the audience that were like oohing and clapping and pointing him out. I'm assuming that's because of his like connections to The Last Drive-In, or maybe they're just wrestling fans. So they're making like noise for him. And then when Tom Savini shows up in the news broadcast, the great Tom Savini, whose work in special effects, who is a iconoclastic person within the horror genre. Without him, we would not even have the Terrifier films. And he shows up and it's just like crickets from the audience. Like no reaction whatsoever. They were all acting like it was just some random guy on the TV. I was like, you're gonna be making noise for Chris Jericho and not Tom Savini? Shame. So that's really all of my thoughts on Terrifier 3, and it seems like we're gonna go to hell in the fourth movie. I know Damien Leone has hinted that maybe the fourth one will be the last one. Well, we'll see. But if it is the last one, then yes, I think it would be appropriate to end in hell with Sienna having to go save her niece. So I'm actually really excited to see what they do with that. I feel like we got maybe a little hints of it when she's having that like weird dream sequence. So maybe that's a hint as to what we are going to be getting in the next film. What I'm really hoping for is, like, since the previous Terrifier films, you know, those were obviously throwbacks to the slasher movies. This one pulling a lot from Evil Dead. I'm hoping that in the fourth one, if they are going to go to hell, that we're just gonna get like a Hellraiser on steroids. Did you see Terrifier 3 this weekend? What did you think about it? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm actually so excited because the little art house theater that I help co-manage, we're getting an advanced screening of Smile 2 in a couple of days, and I'm so excited for that. So I will see you all again soon for my Smile 2 review, but until then, let me know your thoughts on the Terrifier films, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.
Hey, Santa, it looks like you got a fan.